On a rather festive note, as Acmetropolis is celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the meteor impact with a dedication to the Loonatics for their work over this 1 year. However, as Ace is about to begin his speech, it starts raining. Rocks.
Great. A hailstorm and me without my umbrella.
This isn't hail. These are rock pellets. They're not even from this planet.
Tech realizes that these are no ordinary rocks. It's a meteor shower, and the rocks are starting to get bigger. The team starts fending off the larger chunks of meteor to give the attendees the chance to flee. Once the meteor shower has subsided, we cut back to HQ, where Tech shows off his findings. As it turns out, the meteor that hit Acmetropolis a year ago was only the beginning, as a much larger meteor is hurtling toward the planet's direction as well. And this one probably won't be dishing out any more superpowers. With no other options, Zadavia assigns the Loonatics the task of flying out into space and dealing with this meteor before it wipes the entire planet out. Later that night, Ace is up fighting in their virtual fight simulator, Lexi pausing it mid-flight after hearing the ruckus. Ace claims he needs all the training he can get given the severity of the situation. And here's what makes this episode arguably the most valuable of Season 1. The flashbacks. This is the episode that shows what each member of the team was doing right before that first meteor impact. For Ace, he was a stunt double for a movie whose director was suppressing any and all ideas he had to make it pop a bit more.
You see, I am the director, which makes me the boss, and that means you do the scene the way I tell you to do the scene.
After taking a beating from the robot that he's supposed to be fighting, the meteor hits, the resulting shockwave enveloping Ace as we end the flashback. Lexi checks in on Duck next, who's up checking to see if more meteor showers have hit. Duck goes on one of his usual heroic speeches before Lexi cuts him off, wondering if the Mallard was always like this. As we learn from his flashback, yes he was. Prior to the meteor, Duck was a simple pool boy with high ambitions of becoming a proper lifeguard. But his superior clearly looks down on him with scorn. After finding yet another diaper in the pool, Duck begs for mercy, which is granted by the meteor.
I was kidding!
As we end the flashback, Lexi is somewhat pleased to see that Duck has come such a long way, which immediately begins her flashback, as we see her as an aspiring cheerleader hoping to win a spot on the Acmetropolis University cheer squad. In spite of her fellow cheerleaders really loving the routine she performs, the head cheerleader passes her over out of pure jealousy. Cue Meteor.
I'm ready for this mission. And I know I'll be as brave as you, Duck.
Dare to dream, Lexi. Dare to dream.
The following morning, Tech shows off the new ship they'll be using to take out the meteor. As they get ready to take off, Tech starts reminiscing about his time at the Acme Institute, which segues into his own flashback. The Coyote is putting the finishing touches on his senior thesis project, which is holding the rest of the group up from having lunch. The head scientist of the group pushes Tech aside so he can finish it himself, but that proves to be a bad idea.
My baby!
Even though it wasn't his own fault to begin with, he's wrongfully thrown out of the Institute. And if things couldn't get any worse, that's when the meteor hits, ending the flashback.
It'll work. I know it.
With a successful liftoff, the Loonatics venture out into space, ready to intercept the meteor. However, a strange beam intercepts them, rendering the spacecraft an unpowered hunk of metal as it spirals back down to the planet. Len Yulee began his career with a sole episode of the detective drama Holmes and Yo-Yo. Then, little over a decade later, would join the collective writers' room for the Disney Afternoon, writing episodes for nearly every show on the block, from Gummy Bears all the way to the Mighty Ducks. Other writing credits around this time included X-Men the Animated Series, Mummies Alive, The Land Before Time 7, and RoboCop Alpha Commando, of which he wrote a whopping 40 episodes. Yulee would then land at Kids WB in 2000, becoming a writer for Static Shock, writing 16 episodes across all 4 seasons. Yulee would write 4 episodes for Loonatics, 3 in Season 1 and 1 in Season 2. After Loonatics, Yulee would go freelance and write episodes for any show looking for a temporary boost in writers, including The Batman, Horseland, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, and even VeggieTales. His biggest success post-Loonatics would be as a recurring writer for the Ben 10 franchise, starting out with Alien Force, then would remain with the franchise up until Ben 10 Omniverse. Other writing credits that he stuck around for included Thunderbirds Are Go, Superbook, and Miles from Tomorrowland. If there was ever a more underappreciated part of the animation process, it would probably be the storyboard artist. And Rich Chidlaw here is no exception. Chidlaw's storyboarding career began with He-Man, working on 65 episodes, then would follow that up with 13 episodes of Muppet Babies and 65 episodes of Heathcliff. Other major shows he worked closely on included Cops, the Rambo cartoon, DuckTales, Gargoyles, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. Chidlaw would storyboard 3 episodes of Loonatics, all from Season 1. Post-Loonatics, he worked on the 2006 revival of Biker Mice from Mars, Dan Versus, and Pink Panther and Pals. His final contribution would be a single episode of SpongeBob SquarePants in 2021, before passing away in October of 2023. As we return from commercial, Tech confidently instructs Rev to reinstall the ship's controls from a backup kept in his lab, which the Roadrunner dutifully does. Even with the ship back in control, doubts are still high. Rev confides that the route taken bypasses any and all chances of further collisions, though that doesn't seem to stop some asteroids from mysteriously being hurled their way. Tech instructs the team to step up, don spacesuits, and head outside to protect the ship from further asteroids, Slam being a bit too eager and slips out without anyone noticing. It's here where we get Slam's flashback, where we see him as a pro wrestler. Only problem? He's meant to intentionally lose in order to make his opponent look good. Rather than follow orders, he instead opts to actually fight back. But just when it seems he's going to win, that's when the meteor hits. Slam looks longingly at the incoming shockwave as we end his flashback. Duck congratulates Slam on keeping the ship safe as they lead him back inside. After more time has passed, Lexi finally spots the meteor, but it doesn't look very meteor-esque at all. Tech's course of action is to use a special device to amplify Ace's laser eye powers by a ridiculous amount. With the ship in place, Ace gets ready to blast the meteor to smithereens, but when he fires his laser eyes at the meteor and the dust settles, the meteor remains unscathed. One commercial break later, Ace starts to suspect foul play. Considering all that's happened leading up to this moment, it feels like something or someone is preventing them from blowing up this meteor. Undeterred, the Loonatics break out Plan B. Pull an Armageddon and pack it to the brim with explosives. Due to his speed, Rev is given the task of planting the most. As Rev takes charge, we get our final flashback of the episode, showing the Roadrunner working as a delivery boy for a sandwich shop. Rev is ordered by his boss to get a sandwich delivered to a customer in 5 minutes, otherwise it's free and the money lost is docked from his paycheck. Despite a speedy delivery, the guy insists he was a minute late and takes the sandwich without paying. Lamenting the eventual lashing he's going to get from his boss, the meteor makes one final appearance to make things theoretically worse. After landing on the meteor, the team gets to work placing the explosives. but not before that mysterious beam makes another visit, forming a tentacle of rocks that attack Duck.
Oh, Miss B! Well, get out of here!
Okay, no air. Bad idea.
Fetish shot. The beam begins affecting the rest of the team, trapping Ace and Slam in the meteor's surface, attempting to collapse a cavern Lexi's in, and forcing a bomb to detonate early and making sure it stays in Tech's hands.
Oh dear.
Whoa, did you see that? It stopped in midair! Man, Tech, it was that strange cosmic energy. It somehow knocked the charges off course. How do you explain that? But really, Tech, thanks for saving my life.
A pleasure, as always.
In spite of this strange force's attempts at messing up their plan to blow the meteor up, the team is able to place all of the charges. Duck making it back to the ship in the nick of time before the charges all activate. The team gets the hell out of there as the bombs detonate, finally blowing up the meteor for good. Despite a heartfelt congratulations from Zadavia, Ace is still curious as to what exactly that beam of energy was, and more importantly, where it came from. The episode ends with the originator of that beam monologuing in his ship.
But the third time will be the charm.
As shown by how much time it's taken me to recap this episode, this is one that is very important, not only for Season 1, but for the show as a whole. It took us 6 episodes, but we finally get proper origin stories for the team, showing us their lives right before the meteor hit. And it doesn't exactly paint a pretty picture. I'll touch more on this later, but I think there's a subtext at play here that doesn't exactly put Acmetropolis as a whole in the most positive light. On the downside, as soon as the meteor hits, that's all we get. We don't get to see them in the immediate aftermath of the meteor, we don't get to see their initial reactions to them now having superpowers, and, most importantly, we don't get to see the Loonatics come together for the first time. It's the equivalent of the restaurant you're ordering delivery from for getting your cheeseburger, but still remembering the fries and drink. We're given an incomplete picture that not even supplemental material can fix. But in spite of that, this is the first major episode that gets the gears rolling towards the season finale, as our mysterious villain at the end will prove to be very integral to the plot. For the most part, the last few episodes have mostly been self-contained one-offs that focus on villains of the week. From here on out, the episodes are about to become much more connected as we find ourselves getting closer and closer to the end of Season 1.